The recording has started.
All right, great. So just a little background on, you might be wondering why I'm doing the basic stuff with Sitecore versus like kind of the cutting edge new stuff. Um, one of the two reasons, one of them is being a Sitecore MVP, one of the things that I've been told was missing was not a lot of people do blogs on just the basic stuff. There's a lot of new people to Sitecore that don't quite understand how things work. But there's also other people that um, are not really technical, so they see Sitecore on the outside surface and they're testing stuff, but they don't understand kind of the inner workings. And the second reason was I found like internally in the company I work for that a lot of people didn't have that concept, so that were non-technical, but they wanted to know a little bit more because it helped them to figure out what they're kind of looking at a little bit better, and it made their job a little bit easier and things a little bit smoother because they could understand why some things worked or didn't work. So I did a lot of internal meetings with that. So today I'm just going to cover kind of what templates are, some of the things you can do with them, why they are powerful. Then we'll go also into the presentation layer. And then if we have enough time, I'll show you XM Cloud too a little bit and see how that concept's just slightly different, but kind of the same as your traditional Sitecore. So let me get started with a template. So if you've never seen a template before and how it's built, this is pretty much how it is. It's just basically a data model. It's You got to think of it as building blocks. So you have all different parts. When you're building something, you have all different parts and different layers of things. And you have your base, and then you have the middle part, the top part, so on and so forth. And then each piece does its own thing. And it's just a piece of data, and you build it. So it's kind of the same concept with templates. So a template, when it's created, it's usually has a purpose. In this case, we're going to do an auto sticker. There's a builder tab, and this top part here it's not indented. That's going to be the section, and then all below it is anything that's part of that section. So here's your part of the model, and then here's all the different blocks that go with it and data that goes with it. So you might have a model of the car, the color, the year, options, miles per gallon or kilometers. So just typical stuff you would see for that. And keep in mind everything you see in Sitecore, everything on that content tree, it's all made up of a template. They call it an item, but the base layer of it and how it's created is a template. So template is kind of like the bottom part of anything you see in Sitecore. That's how they create stuff. That's how you see all the fields when you go into an item. It all comes from the template that it's created from. And so one of the other powerful things about a template is the inheritance. And this part is really important because let's say you have something like addresses. That's something that's commonly used in many different areas. So I got an address for this auto sticker, but then like as we further do the site, there's like an address for the manufacturer that makes the mufflers. There's an address for where the car is made. So instead of adding address fields to the actual auto sticker template, we want to do something what they call inheritance, so that and the how to do that is just create another template. We're just going to create a template called address information. Put it in the same spot. And keep in mind these tabs and stuff, the way mine is set up, I'm using the Sitecore author toolbox, which I highly recommend. It organizes things a little bit better. So when you first create a template, insert it, it'll just have the template. Um, and we'll get into this part a little bit later, but you 9 out of 10 times you probably want standard values on it. And I'll go over that in a minute or a couple minutes. So we created this address information template, and now we want to put just a couple of the fields on there. So we're just going to go address information. And they might have 2 addresses. I'll just do city. And obviously there's more fields, but we'll start with that. So we have an address template now, and we want those same fields that are in the address template on the auto sticker template. And so how do we do that? Well, it's really simple. There's this thing called inheritance, and basically you could take any template you want. There are templates. There's several that you'll use, and you'll see. I'll show you some other examples. So if I took the address information template and just clicked on it and then save. Now when we look at the accumulated fields and we look at standard values here, you'll see data, the data that was on the address information, and then you also see address information as well. So now this auto sticker template, it has all those fields that it needs. It has the address information, it has data. And you can just keep creating templates and inheriting from it. The nice thing about having this address information, you can reuse this template anywhere. You don't have to recreate it over and over again. You can use it on any other template you want and have those fields. Another good example is like taxonomy, like tags. Like different data is tagged the same. So you might have like a market tag or brand tag or whatever. You can reuse those. You don't have to keep creating a field that has tagging on there. You can have one template and have any template that you want to tag with. You can use that you can reuse that and have those fields. One of the tricks too, if you wanted, so right now if we looked at, we go to standard values here, we looked at what gets made with that auto sticker. We have the address information and data, but if you ever wanted to combine that on the templates, all you have to do is take the section name, you name it data as well, the same one that's in the auto sticker template. And then what'll happen is it'll combine all the fields together. So now I have everything in one section. Usually it's not recommended, but it's good for, like, let's say you had a taxonomy, you had so your regular taxonomies are markets and brands, but you were doing another template, and that only had the product taxonomy. So you could do the same thing. You could put the section as taxonomy, and then it would get combined with the template that you're inheriting to. So that's just a way of grouping things. Now the other thing with the standard values is you can do any of these fields, and you click on it on a template, and you can default whatever you need, whatever you want. That's a common thing. So let's say we're doing auto stickers, and it's 2023. So if we save that, and let's go up here. I already created one, but let's create a new one. And you might not, if you're in marketing and all that, you might not be creating a new page, but for this demo, let's create it. Yeah, if you're a developer, you'll create it, usually for testing. But mostly the content authors are going to be the ones who are creating new pages. So now when I create the auto sticker, you'll see that it's defaulted to 2023, and you'll see this word here that says standard value. So that basically means it's using the standard value. Another good thing for the standard values is like settings. If you do any wording or any labels and stuff, and you just want to keep them the same, and you don't really want content authors to change it, but you want it to propagate all the time when you do a release, you can just change the standard values on that settings, and that label will change automatically on the site because it'll take the standard value. So anything you see too is on this quick info. It'll always have the template path. And like I was saying, like everything is made out of templates. So if you click on anything in like a content tree, even this folder, it'll have the template. So everything you see here is made out of a template. So then you can click in on that. It'll bring up the template that it's created from. And yeah, it's the same thing. Go to the builder tab. This one doesn't have anything, but I believe, yeah, this one's just a regular template, but there's some you'll see with many inherited templates to build it. So that kind of gives you a pretty decent overview on the template. But one of the things with the templates is, yeah, they're useful for different things. They're kind of like how everything's built, but we still need a way to see that data that's in the template. And that's where we go into the presentation layer. And for that, I'm going to go into the actual Summit demo. Put the content editor here for this. We start with this page here. So this is Sitecore 10.3, I believe, or it's XM. But one of the things that Sitecore provides, they do provide a demo site you can request for them to give you access. The nice thing about that is before we had to install the demo ourselves, but now they'll spin it up for you, and you can it's time. There's a time limit on it, but it'll spin right up, and you'll be able to use it. And that's that. It's like sitecoredemo.com, but you can ask the demo team for access. So the first thing I want to start with is the content editor in this site. Yeah, here's the whole tree. Yeah, everyone divides this up and creates it the way they want. I believe this site might be headless, but same concept. You know, here's a template. These are web page templates. We click on them, and in here it's the route template. Here's a bunch of other templates. And keep in mind, if you want to know like where a template's used, you can go to this navigate and go to links. And this will tell you all the different areas that refer to that template. So if we clicked here, and it's supposed to take us there. But anyways, yeah, there's a way to navigate. But and this is I don't know if have any of you gone this far yet with this newer stuff, but the concept's the same. Yeah, I believe this site is headless. So, but if you look at the front end and like what you see, so there's the presentation details, and that's kind of what you want to use to show all that data that's on the template. And presentation details, that's where you really get into the building blocks, or like Legos, as somebody described it, where things you kind of want to put in order to make them look nice. Like when you're building something, you kind of want to, you're building towards a goal, and you want it to look like the way you want it to look and what's accepted. So there's a certain order you put them in, there's placeholders where the data should go, and so on and so forth until it looks right, and then that would be your web page. But if you look at presentation details, you'll see typical stuff that you see on a website. You have the main layout, so this would be like your base, but then you have other parts of it: the header, main navigation, hero image. Um, Here's the vendor's grid. There's a section, a sponsor grid, and there's a footer. You have these placeholder settings. Now these placeholder settings are used to make sure the data or any component that you put in there, any rendering, is in the appropriate place. So you don't want to add something in the footer that doesn't belong. You don't want to throw a hero image in a footer. You want, so that's usually to guide the content editor, and it's a good practice. But as you can see, though, this is kind of how a typical web page is built, with the presentation layer. And then here's kind of what some of the data. Here's a page title that's required, and then here's a bunch of supporting things that go underneath it. So this is a vendor template. So on the data tab, you got name, description, logo, all this other. You got a multi-list, social, and content hub attributes. So if we looked at a vendor template, we'll see the content hub underneath: standard template, social links, and web page. So that's what that inheritance from. And then if you go even further, like if you went to a web page, you'd see what that inherited from. Social links might have its own inheritance. But all those combine to make this vendor template. Now, as far as presentation details, that'll have its own. So if somebody navigated to that specific vendor, they would display it as a header, main navigation, information, vendor information, full image section. It has everything. The parent page the parent item that was above it has, but it has its own presentation details because everything varies. Everything you want to present varies. When we get into the renderings, and this might be a little bit different, the basic renderings here. So this one's headless, but let me go back to the renderings here. So there's a couple different renderings traditionally. When you try to insert one, and you'll have a whole list, but what you traditionally see, like especially if you use SXA, you'll see the controller renderings. And we're not going to get too technical in there, but when you see a controller rendering, it usually means most of the business logic is in the back end. So if something doesn't usually work correctly, they expect it to, it's usually a back end issue most of the time because it uses business logic back there. There are front end issues too as well, but most of the stuff in the back end business processing is done in a controller. So you'll see a lot of controller renderings. And then view rendering is the other one that you might see a lot. And that's usually for something really simple where it doesn't require a lot of business logic. There's these other kinds, but they're not used as much. And headless has it does its own thing too as well. So, but it's a very similar concept of your traditional Sitecore. But it's all, when you look at it, you got the template, you build what you need with that, you create your data model with that, but then you got the presentation layer, which is also building, but it's all kind of like building with Legos or typical blocks and stuff until you get what you want to see. Um, so it's kind of like the 10,000-foot view of templates and presentation layer. A couple things too I wanted to just to go over some of the newer concepts. Um, one of the things, you got your content editor, but you also have the experience editor. And to get to the experience editor, you can take any of these pages here and then just do experience editor, or you can right click on it. There's a couple ways to get it, but this is one way of also being able to edit without the content editor. And a lot of people these days just use the experience editor. And in this site, this is the demo site, so it's typical what is a traditional Sitecore. Each of these are a section that you can edit and add stuff to. It's still loading. Let's see, this one's already loaded. But you can edit data. Here's the title. I click on this. This is a section, but all these are, yeah, going back to, this is the building blocks. That's all it is. They added a news grid. We can swap that out. Here's a button. We can change the text on this button. You can change the link, but it's all being built, and there's always a template in the back end that gives us information too. So a lot of times if something is wrong here, you can go directly to the template, find the data that corresponds to this and change it, or you can usually change it here as well. And just by clicking on it and typing. It's a little slow, but the same same thing that you would do in a traditional Sitecore, you would do like in the head list. You'll have the experience editor and a way to edit that stuff. But yeah, you can add, go back here. You can add any rendering. So if I wanted to add something to the main placeholder for it to load here. So this gives me everything I can add. I can add a 3-column section, add under stuff underneath it or on it. There's a session list, so we select that, we can add it. But the concept is the same no matter what version of Sitecore you're going to. You got your experience editor, your page, your content editor, and it's all contains that presentation layer that we see, and then the template that feeds that presentation layer. So if you're in marketing or you're testing anything, when you're viewing any Sitecore page, you know that it's just what you're seeing is a presentation layer, but underneath it is the template. So that's basically how everything's controlled that way. And same thing too, like if you're trying to swap out information, these presentation, each one of these presentations could be swapped out in a different way. So based on location, you can swap this out and change to a different session that's in someone's area. So you can do a lot of that stuff. So it's pretty flexible on that, but so it's like changing when you're building something, it's like changing out one piece for another piece. So that's pretty much it on the templates and everything, and the presentation layer that I had. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense especially if you're new to Sitecore. And then just real quick, I wanted to show you guys some of the new stuff. This is kind of the portal that they have now, and there's like XM Cloud and all this stuff that they're kind of going to. One of the things that they have now are these pages, and it's very similar to what we see in the experience editor, but a little bit different. But the same concept of building something on the page. There's templates and all that. So as you evolve and do different things, you'll see that It's the stuff is going to be very simple. We're very similar. So this one has same concept, a little bit different than what we normally see in the experience editor, but still the same type of content. Uh, and I haven't messed around with this too much, but yeah, there's definitely a way to change it and stuff. So did anyone have any questions?
All good at my end, Rob.
What was that?
No questions.
Oh, no questions. All right. Well, um, hopefully I didn't. Hopefully some of that made sense, and I appreciate any feedback. This is the first time I've presented it in a user group, so um, yeah, I wanted to make it pretty casual and um, hopefully get people an idea how some of the stuff works. I'm
Just
hoping
quick,
that I can do more with what's in the
yeah,
cloud here. So
yes. So there was a just quick question from my end, Rob. So do you want to do a series kind of stuff where you take everyone through the basics, like whatever you covered today, like you want to add in future, like a series two, like a part two or something?
yeah, so I did one on templates, and then I'm working on one for presentations now. Um, so let me go to my blog real quick. So I did recently. I did one, and then it just kind of goes into kind of what I covered, but in a blog format. It goes into the vehicle sticker and what's on there. And it talks about the template creation. So yeah, I'm gonna do more of these because it's definitely something that's missing. Back when I started uh, Sitecore, we had one book that was written, and how Sitecore is. It just kind of goes. It just kind of changes. So it's hard to keep up. And there's new people coming in, but the basics are missed kind of, especially like when you're training somebody, they may not be familiar with the templates. They may be using them, but they may not be familiar with how inheritance works, and they might be creating fields over and over again that are not needed. And the other thing too. So after, um, so the next one I'm going to do is the presentation details, but the other thing was going to be workflows. I wanted to cover that as well. Um, that is something else that um, doesn't get used. Well, it gets used, but people don't know the concept of them and the best way to use them. Because they are really powerful, and I think especially for a company that has a legal team that wants to make sure the right content gets out there. So marketing starts it, but legal has to approve it, kind of thing. I think more and more of the workflows are needed, especially this day and age with social media. And you'll see workflows. It's not just workflows in Sitecore. You see workflows in Content Hub too, because stuff like images are very important of what gets out there into the public, and you've seen examples of that now with advertising and doesn't work out or whatever. So, um, but yeah, so I want to cover that as well. So, um, and I'm hoping to do some more stuff with some of the newer things. Um, yeah, I know I did a presentation with Docker on with you guys before, and that's another thing too. It's like we're doing local Docker deployments and development, but when we're in the cloud, may not be the case all the time anymore. So we'll have to. I want to do something where like, okay, this is how you develop when you're on a cloud system versus Docker. So, and Docker's still required as far as I know for like XM Cloud because it does container deployment, but there might not be required all the time anymore. So depending on how everything's set up. So, but yeah, I'd like to cover more of that stuff. the cutting edge stuff is nice, but I think more and more people want to know, especially coming into it. You know,
Yep.
what are the inner workings of Sitecore?
Yep. Sounds good. Let us know when you want to schedule the other one, and we'll try to schedule. And thanks for today's quick recap and introduction to basics. Yeah, Vinod, you can go.
Good. All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity.